Hey there, this is Ross Izzard. This is the Backcountry Fly Fishing Podcast, where we talk about fly fishing in more interesting places. Okay, so today is the day. I have had so many requests for an episode about what I bring when I go backpacking. And today we're going to talk about it. This is what I carry backpacking edition or overnight edition, or I don't know, whatever qualifier you want to stick to it. We've already done this for day trips, and so that's out there. We also have an episode called Packing for Self-Reliance, which is really kind of along the same lines, but focused more on safety. And those are both out there if you're looking for information on day trips or what I carry on a typical day, even if it's a long day. Those episodes are good places to start. The backpacking one, however, we have not done. We've talked about backpacking. We've actually talked this season about when a trip becomes an overnighter, but we haven't really talked about what I carry when I go backpacking. And now before we do that, let's talk a little bit about why you might go backpacking, okay? Because there are a couple of different reasons here. The first and the most obvious one is that some areas are just too remote to reach without backpacking. They're too far to make a day hike. They're just either the terrain is too rough, the distance is too long, the forecast is too bad, whatever. There are a whole host of conditions that could make it so that a day trip to these places is just not possible, in which case it's going to be an overnighter, like we talked about earlier this season, and that means you're going to be camping. The only way really to carry your camping gear into a backcountry location, unless you happen to have a pack animal of some kind, in which case I'm awful jealous, is to carry a backpack. A backpacking backpack, to be more specific. And so that means that you are backpacking for the purpose of backcountry fly fishing. Now, you might also choose to backpack just because you enjoy camping, right? I definitely do several trips a year where I probably could get away with doing it as a day trip, but I really want to be out there. I really love the connection that you get to these places by being able to be in them in an unbroken fashion all the way through the day, through that sort of early evening, the quiet part of the evening, and then the night. I think there's just a lot of character. There's a lot of beauty in that rhythm. And frankly, there's a lot of peace to be found just being in those places and experiencing them all the way through that daily cycle that it really kind of calms my spirit and I enjoy it. And there are times when I do that just to do it. And then, of course, there are other times where it's just, for whatever reason, more convenient to me, right? Sometimes it makes sense to set up a base camp so I can explore several different rivers or a couple of different lakes or whatever might be the case. But a lot of times I'm just really looking for that connection. And I really derive a lot of enjoyment from being out there in the backcountry camping. Now, we're not talking about car camping. I'm going to put that out here first. Now, there is a vein of camping, and I do this too, so no shade on car campers. I occasionally camp in the back of my truck with a truck tent, a truck bed tent, I should say. I occasionally do car camp in the traditional sense, and I think that's beautiful. I mean, you can bring real pillows and big inflatable mattresses and a whole bunch of other stuff, and that is really quite an experience. It can be luxurious compared to backpacking. And I do it fairly often, although I don't do it as often as I backpack because I just think backpacking, number one, the areas that you're able to access are just so much more remote and to me, so much more interesting and personal. And also it's just, there's a lot more sort of connection and physicality to it, right? There's something to be said for really carrying everything you need into the wilderness and getting by out there on your own or with a group, as opposed to like, hey, let me run back to the truck and get an extra piece of beef jerky or a flashlight or whatever. You really got to prepare for it. You've got to think about it. And as a result, I think there's more physicality, there's more effort, there's more connection, and there is, to me, more meaning to it. It's a more meaningful way to experience camping in these places. But we can talk more about that another time. For now, we're here to talk about what I carry when I go backpacking. And this is a fairly long list. Okay, so you're going to have to bear with me. I have tried to be pretty ruthless about the stuff that I carry because obviously when you go backpacking, if you're carrying all of your stuff, you are going to be dealing with a fair amount of weight, right? So you can pack fairly light. As I talked about in that episode about packing for self-reliance, if you pack too light and if you go too far down the road of being, quote, ultralight, number one, you're going to have a bad time because that's hard to do with fishing gear. But number two, you eventually run into a place where you're making a trade-off between weight and safety, or between comfort and safety. And that's not a trade-off that I'm often willing to make. So I would rather be slightly overpacked within reason, right? I'm not walking around out there carrying 15 pounds of stuff I don't need, because you don't want to do that. And there's something to be said for not hurting yourself or getting exhausted as well. But I do want to make sure that I'm prepared, especially because I'm almost always going by myself. Yes, I do backpack by myself. I camp by myself. That is typically how I do this. And that is a really great way for me personally to experience the type of intimate relation with these places that I want. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with going with the group. You might be able to carry less if you're with a group, and that's part of why I bring it up. It does change dynamics when you can have other people carrying some of the weight. My list is built off of the idea that I will be by myself with nobody coming to help me for maybe one night, maybe 2 nights, maybe 3 nights, but a series of days alone in a fairly remote place, which is why it may be a little bit more extensive than what you see in lists for folks who are backpacking trails that are full of people or have rest points or have other folks going along with them. It's just a little bit of a different thing when you're out there by yourself. And you'll see that reflected in a fair amount of what we talk about here. But with all of that in mind, let's go ahead and jump in. And the first thing I know you guys are going to ask is, well, what kind of backpacking bag do you carry? And this is a really complicated question, okay? I'm going to do my level best over the course of this episode to not endorse gear. I don't mind telling you what I use, but I also want to be careful because there are a lot of other really great pieces of gear out there that could possibly also suit your purposes and maybe even better than mine. It just depends on what you're looking for. And backpacks are no exception. So I've been through a lot of backpacks. I think there are some really good ones on the market. I currently have a Gregory Baltoro, and it is a 75-liter pack. Now, that's crazy, right? Like my day pack is 30 liters, and a lot of backpacking packs are 50 liters or 60 liters or even 40 liters. And that's fine for those people, but I find that I really appreciate the extra room in that really big pack. Now, do I fill it to the brim every time? No, I don't. Does that mean that I'm carrying a little bit of extra weight because it's a bigger pack that I might need on every trip? Yeah, maybe. But I would rather that and know that I can fit everything that I need and that I don't have to cram everything and the zippers aren't bursting and the seams aren't bursting than I would trying to really force this into a smaller bag for the sake of shaving off a little bit of weight or not carrying a big bag. So the Gregory Baltoro 75 has been my go-to for a couple of seasons. I really like it. It's super comfortable. No matter which backpack you get, please do make sure that you actually go and get sized for these. They do come in sizes. It matters how long your back is. It matters how comfortable they are. It matters how well they distribute that weight down into your glutes and your posterior chain, as opposed to in your back or your shoulders, which, trust me, wearing a pack that's not made for you does not feel good. But whatever pack you get, make sure it's comfortable, it's fitted, and it's large enough to carry the stuff that you need. Now, once you're in the backpack, let's go with the big items first. Okay, and some of these are going to seem really obvious, so you'll have to forgive me, but we're here making a list, so why not make a list? The first one, going in order of survival stuff, is you're going to want a shelter. And I'm going to leave it up to you to decide what kind of shelter you want. I personally use a 2-person tent called I think it's a Mountain Hardware Nimbus UL, and the UL stands for ultralight. And it's a 2-person, as I mentioned. It's a great tent. It's easy to set up. It has proven to be pretty durable. It is actually ultralight. I mean, I think it weighs like maybe 1.5 pounds or something insane like that. And it served me really well in a whole bunch of different environments. I do use a 2-person tent. You can get little 1-person tents. You can do bivy tents, whatever you want, and that's fine. I find that a 2-person tent provides me with enough room to be comfortable and have a place to put my stuff and be able to spread out a little bit and get comfortable for a few days, and isn't so big that it's cumbersome or annoying to pitch or overly heavy or whatever else. So for me, a 2-person tent has been my go-to, and the Nimbus has really been my go-to for the last several seasons. Now, with the tent, you're going to want to make sure that you have the right stuff for your tent. And there are a couple of things here. The first one is I can almost guarantee you that whatever the spikes are that come with the tent are not going to be very good. Those stakes that come with the tents, they're very often kind of crappy. A lot of them are, quote, ultralight, and they will bend if you hit them wrong. And that means that you want to be really, really careful about which stakes you bring. I compulsively replace my stakes instantaneously when I get them. I get better stakes made of tougher stuff. Are they a little bit heavier? Yes, but it's worth it because they won't break on you. And also, I like to carry extra stakes because I find that occasionally one of them might get lost, or it might bend somehow, or something can happen. And I just like having additional stakes with me just in case I need them. And sometimes I use them for other stuff, like staking down a piece of laundry or something else. And there's a lot of uses for these things if you're creative about it. But make sure that you have decent stakes. Make sure that you always have your rain fly, right? You guys probably know this, but if you don't have a rain fly, you're going to get wet if it rains. And you don't want that because being wet, number one, is miserable, and number two, way off in the backcountry can be pretty dangerous. So don't do that. Make sure you have the rain fly. And for the love of God, guys, make sure you know how to pitch the tent before you go out. Please don't be the guy that goes to REI or wherever and buys a tent, never pitched it, never put it up, and you wind up going out and just trying it and not knowing how to pitch it. That's a recipe for disaster, right? Now, tents aren't rocket science. You'll probably figure it out eventually, but sometimes you got to pitch those things pretty quickly for whatever reason. Maybe the sun's already down, maybe there's weather rolling in, whatever it might be. Please practice before you go. Set it up in your yard, set it up in your driveway if you don't have a yard. It's not that hard. It'll take you 10 minutes, and it will probably save you a lot of time and maybe your life when you are off in the wilderness. So that's thing one, is a tent. Next thing is a sleeping bag. Now, there's a big debate over whether or not you want an actual sleeping bag, like a mummy style bag, or if you want a quilt. Now, I've tried both. I think they're both great. Overall, I think quilts are probably easier for most people, but I do carry a mummy bag. I think it is a Nemo something or other bag. It's a 15 or 20 degree bag. It's perfect for those kind of cool mountain evenings. It's warm enough if it gets unexpectedly cold. You do want to make sure that you're not skimping too much on the insulation here, because some of those nights, especially at higher elevations, can really surprise you with how cold they get. There's a difference between the minimum rating for a bag, which is the lowest temperature that it can go to before you start getting in real trouble, and the comfort rating. And you want to look at both, because the comfort rating is the number that probably matters more to you as far as actual real life use. Whatever bag you get, you can use it however you want. I do use a mummy bag. I appreciate the toe box where I can stick my feet down in there. I like a big substantial hood that I can pull up over my head at night. And I very often unzip the bag entirely and use it sort of as a partial quilt with a toe box. Now, other people do it differently. I don't like being restricted in a sleeping bag. I find that pretty uncomfortable. I do like quilts, but like I said, I appreciate that toe box. And frankly, I just really like my sleeping bag. And so I very often will just unzip it and use it as sort of a pseudo quilt when I'm out there. But no matter what, you're going to want a decent sleeping bag. Make sure it is rated to the environment that you're going to be in. Please do your research on this. It is not worth messing around with it. And then you're going to need to put that sleeping bag in a waterproof stuff sack. Now, the stuff sack that your sleeping bag came in probably sucks. They're ridiculously small to the point that it's like a joke these days. That they expect you to roll those things up and stuff them in there, and they just don't need to be. The truth is that you're better off with a bigger stuff sack, especially a dry stuff sack that will keep your sleeping bag dry, than you are trying to stuff it into some tiny manufacturer stuff sack that came with the bag. I replace mine instantly. I usually go out and get like a Sea to Summit dry bag. I think my current one is like a 18-liter-ish dry bag, which is helpful for a couple of reasons. Number one, in a lot of places where I backpack, you will be wading or walking in wet areas or doing stream crossings. And depending on where your sleeping bag happens to be, which very often is on the outside of your pack, depending on how you put it together, it might get wet. And I don't know if you know this, but a lot of sleeping bag insulation, especially down, is very ineffective when it gets wet, on top of the fact that it sucks to sleep in a wet bag. So putting it in a dry bag is what you want to do. And the beautiful thing about a bigger stuff sack is that you don't have to worry about trying to roll it and stick it in there and cuss at yourself. It really saves you a lot of time, which is, number one, great from a convenience perspective. Number two, it will be helpful to you if you're picking up and moving every day when you're backpacking. And number three, it just is less of a headache. So I've learned that, whatever the couple of gram difference is between that and the stuff sack that came with the bag, I'd rather just have the bigger one because I just wake up in the morning, I stuff that thing haphazardly down in the bag. I don't roll it, I don't fold it, I just stuff it in there, I seal it up, I strap it to the pack, and off I go. And I find that much more useful. After that, you're going to want a sleeping pad. Now, this one's controversial, so I'm going to kind of be careful here. A lot of people sleep on those sort of foam egg cratey pads, and they get by just fine with them. I think that's okay if that's what you want to do. I find those somewhat annoying to carry. I find them kind of uncomfortable. I have sort of a bad hip. It's a long story, but if I sleep in weird positions on the wrong stuff, it can kind of mess me up, especially with the heavy pack. And so I do carry an inflatable backpacking single person air mattress. I have a Big Agnes Boundary Deluxe insulated sleeping pad that I carry with me. I think it's got an R value, which is to say that it's insulated against the cold in the ground. It's got an R value of 4.3, which is pretty good. It does a lot to keep you off the cold ground. It can keep you a lot warmer in cold environments. I got the long version, and I think I might have gotten the wide version, but I have to go back and check. But I just want to make sure I'm not falling off the pad in the middle of the night, which is uncomfortable. And I do like to have enough room to kind of spread out a little bit, especially if I'm sleeping on my stomach. And I just appreciate the extra comfort of it. Now, does it weigh more? Yes, it does weigh more. It can be a couple pounds heavier than you would carry with one of those foam pads. It's not the lightest pad out there in the world, but it is comfortable. It's worth it to me, and I've never had an issue with it. It's also very durable. I've not been very kind to it, and it still works really, really well for me. So I'll leave that up to you, but you decide what you're going to do. One thing I will mention is that if you're going to bring an inflatable sleeping pad, you're going to want to make sure that you have the right kind of system to inflate it. A lot of these pads come with sort of a hand inflator tool. It's like a sack, and you capture air in the sack and then you roll it down and it connects to the pad, and that's how you blow up the pad in the backcountry. I do not carry an air pump. I don't want to carry the weight, and I don't think you need it. However, I think that the little sack, the inflation sack that these things come with, is not really very helpful. And to be honest with you, it's number one, pretty small. And these things double as stuff sacks for the pad itself, which makes it, we're back to the size thing. I prefer a bigger one, and I like one that makes it a little bit easier for me just to roll that thing up and stuff it in there without losing my mind, even if it's not perfectly deflated, even if it's not perfectly rolled. I just want to get it in there and get back on the trail. But additionally, I really want to be able to inflate that pad as quickly as possible, just for convenience's sake. I don't want to be doing that for 45 minutes. And for that reason, I swap out, again, the sack and the inflation sack pump, whatever you want to call it, that comes with the pad, with the Big Agnes Pump House Ultra. And it's basically exactly the same thing, but it's a lot bigger, and it's got sort of this extension at the top that can make it even bigger, which means that it can capture more air, which means it requires fewer pumps from you before the pad is fully inflated. And it really is awesome. It also doubles as a dry bag for your pad. It doubles as a really convenient stuff sack for the pad. It weighs nothing. I think the thing is awesome. You can use it as a pillow if you are so inclined, and stuff something in there like a jacket or whatever. I don't do that because it makes my neck hurt. We'll talk more about that in a second. But in any case, that Pump House Ultra really is a lifesaver when you're inflating something in the backcountry. Now, if you're using a egg crate or a foam pad, you don't need to worry about this. You can just ignore me. So moving on. I do carry an inflatable pillow. Now, some people are going to give me shit for this because they're like, well, you don't need a pillow out there, and you should just use a jacket or sleep on this or whatever. And that's fine. Look, we're all rugged, big, manly outdoor people here, and I understand that it's cool to be tough. However, it's also cool to be able to sleep, right? And so a lot of what I do here is so that I can actually rest, because rest matters, right? If you're not sleeping, then you might be making really bad decisions, on top of the fact that you won't feel very well. But fatigue is a real problem in the backcountry, in part because it slows you down, it decreases your physical ability, it decreases your mental acuity, it makes it harder for you to make decisions, and it can be bad news for you, to the point that it can actually be pretty dangerous. And so as a result, I really prioritize sleep. That means I want to be comfortable when I'm out there, and yeah, that means I do carry an inflatable pillow. The pillow that I use is called the Nemo Philo pillow, and it is really pretty good. Inflatable pillow, you blow into a little nozzle, it inflates in 2 seconds, and it's really pretty comfy. It's got a soft sort of fabricy side on one end, and then on the back side, it's just an inflatable thing. And it's okay. It packs down pretty small, doesn't weigh much, fits easily in my bag, and it's something that's always been worth it to me. Now, is it perfectly comfortable the way that a pillow would be at home? No, it's not, but it is really pretty good, and it has been worth it to me. So I do carry that pillow with me whenever I am out there. And that's kind of my sleep system, right? So that's now you've got shelter, you've got your sleeping pad, you've got your sleeping bag, you've got a pillow, and life is pretty good, right? That's all you really need to be able to sleep in the backcountry. Now, I do also carry one change of clothes. I'm going to mention that. I don't carry two changes of clothes. I don't carry multiple changes of clothes. Listen, you're not going to be showering. You're going to smell like fish. You're going to be kind of dirty. You're just not going to be clean. So you don't need to carry a whole bunch of changes of clothes with you because it's just wasted weight. And to be honest with you, you're not really going to use it because nobody cares, right? Especially if you're by yourself. So I carry one additional set of clothes. So that is wool socks, hiking pants, underwear, sun shirt, and maybe if I'm in a really cold environment, a base layer like some merino wool leggings or a shirt or whatever, but that's it, right? And the only time I really ever break those out is if something catastrophic happens and I ruin a piece of clothing, or I got so wet that I really need to dry off, or whatever, come up with a scenario. But I carry that one change of clothes, that's it. They go in a zippable, water-resistant clothes bag. I can't remember the name of the brand, but you can probably find a million of these on Amazon. They're like a bunch of different size, square, zippable bags. And I put the clothes in there just because if the backpack takes a swim or if it gets rained on, P.S., don't forget your rain cover for your backpack. You'll be glad that you have it if it rains on you while you're hiking. But I always like to just know that I've got a dry set of clothes with me no matter what. And as a result, I keep them in this sort of water-resistant bag inside my pack. Now, beyond that, as far as stuff that's actually in your tent from a comfort item perspective or a necessity perspective, you're going to want a really small camp lantern. The one that I have is called a Black Diamond Moji. It's tiny. It's like it weighs a couple of ounces. It literally fits in the palm of your hand. It has several different light modes. There's like a fireplace mode. There's a red mode. There's a white mode. It's rechargeable, so you just charge it at home and then you take it out there. It's got an LED light and a lithium battery. Actually, I don't know if it's a lithium battery, but a rechargeable battery of some kind. It weighs nothing. It's easy to use. The battery lasts forever. That's the only lantern that I carry with me. I'm not carrying like a big Coleman lantern. I'm not carrying 17 different types of flashlights. I just carry that Black Diamond Moji. I slap it down in the tent or wherever I happen to be, and it does just fine. With that, I also obviously have a headlamp. Now, I carry a headlamp even in my day pack because you never know if you're going to get stuck out there at night. But obviously, the point of overnight camping is that you will be out there at night. So please make sure that you bring a headlamp with you. And I've mentioned this before, but I prefer headlamps that come with changeable batteries, not rechargeable batteries. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that sometimes rechargeable batteries can be kind of funky out in the backcountry. It can get cold, which can zap the batteries pretty quickly. I've had them fail on me before. It can just be kind of a pain. Whereas if I have a headlamp that, takes a couple of AA's or 3 AA's, I can carry spare batteries with me. And I know that if something goes wrong or if it runs out of juice, I've got spare batteries with me. I can pop them in, bada bing, bada boom. I have light. Now, you always want to have 2 light sources. Your cell phone has a flashlight on it. That can double as a light source for you too. But do make sure that you have that headlamp with you. Along those same lines, obviously I'm carrying all the same electronic stuff that I would usually have when I'm out there doing backcountry stuff, even on day trips. I have my cell phone. I have my Garmin InReach. I have my Garmin Fenix 7 watch, or whatever Garmin you happen to be. I think it's a Fenix 7. Anyway, here we are. I have all those things. I have headphones because I will occasionally listen to music in the tent or whatever, or I'm watching something, whatever it might be. Who knows? And yes, I do sometimes watch a movie in the tent at night. Now, is that the most rustic thing? No. But, sometimes I want to read a book on my phone and listen to music. Sometimes I do just want to watch a movie and lay there and listen to the sounds, and that's okay. So I do carry headphones. All of that stuff needs to be charged. That means you've got to have the stuff to charge it. Now, when I'm backpacking, well, when I'm doing a day trip, I should say, I carry a single 20,000 milliamp hour battery pack, always fully charged. And that's more than enough to get a couple charges on my phone, keep everything charged in an emergency, get me through a night or two if I really needed it in a bad situation. When I backpack, I very often will carry two because I find that I'm using that equipment much more heavily. I'm obviously out there for longer, and it makes sense to have more battery available to me. So I will carry two of those 20,000 milliamp hour packs with me. They're not super light. They both weigh a little bit over a pound. So that is a weight consideration. But unfortunately, if you're using your devices for navigation and satellite communication and safety and potential SOS functions and light and entertainment and a whole bunch of other things, carrying a battery pack or two is really just sort of part of it. And so I do always have those with me in the tent. Now, beyond that, I am also carrying, obviously, food and the ability to cook food. Now, as far as how I typically eat out there, when I am on a day trip, I very often am bringing something. Actually, we'll probably do a whole episode about this at some point because it's worth talking about wilderness culinary stuff. But, on day trips, it's simple. It's beef jerky, maybe some hard cheese, some crackers, some candy, nothing fancy, right? But on overnight trips, number one, I want to eat a little bit better because there's a lot of comfort in that. And number two, you're burning a lot of calories. You're carrying this big pack, probably weighs a substantial amount. You're covering larger distances, often elevation gain. You're going to want calories in you. And so I tend to bring, I think they're peak nutrition, dehydrated camp meals whenever I go. And the reason I use that brand is because they're about double the amount of calories as anything else that I've been able to find. A lot of those meals are like 400 or 500 calories. And like, listen, if you're 140 pounds and that's all you need, then cool, dude, like no shade on you. I weigh 220 and I'm out there carrying a bunch of weight. I'm fishing all day. I'm waiting all day. I'm moving all day. I'm not just sitting in a camp chair, chilling, reading a book. And so I need calories, and those meals tend to bring a lot of calories, a lot of protein, a decent amount of fat with them. I like to have at least one of those for dinner for sure. I very often will carry one for dinner and one for breakfast every day. I don't care if I'm eating pasta marinara for breakfast. It makes no difference to me, although I think they do make like dedicated breakfast ones. In any case, I carry those with me, and I always have two per day, minimum two per day. I very often will carry an extra because you never know if you're going to be hungry, you're going to get stuck out there, whatever. I will also carry some high-fat stuff, especially for lunches, because I'm often ranging away from the camp during the day, which means I'll be out and I'm going to want to eat. And that's where I get back to my normal, maybe it's a summer sausage. I don't carry cheese for this because cheese, hard cheese is fine for a day trip. It'll last you pretty much all day before it gets funky. That's not necessarily true, definitely when it's not being refrigerated, obviously when you're backpacking, so I don't bother with that. But I'll bring some kind of meat. Doesn't need to be refrigerated. So salami, summer sausage, something that's got some fat and some protein in it. I'll bring some type of crackers or chips with me for carbs and for a little bit of extra fat. And then I'll bring some candy or some cookies because I like sweet stuff, to be honest with you. And also, when you're tired and you've been working hard and, this stuff's a lot of work, that sugar shot can really, really get you back on your feet, in addition to just sort of being a nice comfort item. So I bring all that with me. And then I also bring stuff to go along with it, right? So antibacterial hand wipes because, you might poop in the woods. You got to wash your hands. You're definitely going to be in the river. Time to wash your hands. You might be dealing with something nasty. Time to wash your hands. Whatever it might be. I always carry those with me. And I carry sort of a baseline assortment of other stuff that isn't food, but I'm going to tell you why it's here on this list anyway. I carry bug spray, obviously. I carry sunscreen. Obviously, I carry toothpaste and toothbrush and sometimes mouthwash with me for obvious reasons. And I carry some instant coffee because I really do like a cup of coffee in the morning, sometimes at night, and I'm not going to go without it. So I have all those things, and all of those things smell, right? Not like they smell bad to you, but like they have an odor. And one thing that you'll learn about being outside at night, if you don't know already, is that things that smell interesting sometimes attract interesting critters. Now, where I'm from, that most often is bears, but it can be coyotes, it can be foxes, it can be wolves if you're in the right place. Who knows what it might be? Whatever it is, it's probably not something that you want coming into your camp, definitely coming into your tent at all while you're out there. You really don't want to have that kind of contact with these animals, especially not with bears. And so all of that stuff goes into a bear canister. Now, there are a whole bunch of these out there that people can pick up, and there's a big argument about them. Some of them are not the best. Bears have figured out how to defeat them. There are like ultralight version. Well, I hesitate to say ultralight, but lighter versions of it that are marginal at actually keeping bears out of the food. We really want to keep those bears out of the food because a fed bear is a dead bear. Once they learn that human food is accessible and tasty, they're going to start looking for it. That can lead to some really dangerous situations for people and some really sad situations for the bears. So you really want to make sure that it's locked away. I don't use bear bags. I've seen too many instances of bears getting into trees and ripping those down, or people that string them wrong or whatever. I don't use the ursine sacks or whatever those things are called, where you attach them to the bottom of a tree. Bears will just rip through that, and it just is in my view, an invitation to trouble. And I do use a bear canister, and the one I use is called a backpacker's cache. It's like a small barrel. It looks like a Donkey Kong barrel. You stuff all your stuff down in it, everything that smells, and then it's got a lid that goes on the top, and it latches down with a couple of sort of latching screw heads. And I carry that thing with me. Now, look, this thing is not super duper light, right? It's made out of fairly heavy plastic. You've obviously got all your food in it. Once it's fully loaded, this thing probably weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 or 8 pounds. And so it's not a light thing. It's not a terribly easy thing to pack, to be honest with you. It can be kind of inconvenient, but you really do have to have it. And so you bring that with you. When you're cooking dinner, you bring it out, or breakfast or whatever. You bring it out, you get your stuff. And then when you're done, you load all that stuff back in there along with your garbage. By the way, I do carry a couple of large garbage bags in there because you will produce trash. It's kind of gross if you're just throwing loose trash and wrappers and stuff back into your bear canister. And so I do carry trash bags. And then I finish what I'm doing. I close the lid. I walk it about 100 yards away from camp. Please don't be the guy that leaves your bear canister in camp, guys. That defeats the purpose. They are not smell proof. Bears can still smell them. You just don't want the bear to get into them. And so if a bear comes into your camp to play with the bear canister, you've done it wrong. You want them to be about 100 meters away. Hide them a little bit if you can. Just try to make it difficult for a bear to get a hold of these things. And trust me, it's worth it. I've had bears take mine and throw them off of cliff sides, knock them down in places where I can't get to them, and then you have no food and you're in trouble. So get a decent bear canister, put it away from your camp. You'll be glad that you did. Please make sure that you bring enough food. A lot of people dramatically underestimate how many calories they need when they're out there doing this. Don't be that guy. It can make you tired. It can make you less than clear. It can affect your judgment. It can affect your physical ability. It can get pretty dangerous pretty quickly. So please make sure you bring enough food. And if you're in doubt, err on the side of more food. It's better to have more than you need and carry some out than to run out on day 2 and be starving and in a bad situation. So bring all of that stuff with you. And then you need a way to cook food, right? And this is where we get into camp stoves. Now, we can get into a million different types of camp stove. I've had an MSR Dragonfly for a long time. It's not very light. It comes with a big fuel bottle. It's not the most convenient, but it does light anywhere. You can light that thing in a lightning storm on Mount Everest and it will start. And so it's very reliable. However, I don't carry it unless I'm in a really, really bad or potentially hostile scenario. If I'm not expecting bad weather or serious elevation or extreme temperatures, I instead carry a Jetboil Flash 1 liter. And this thing is awesome, right? It's like a standard Jetboil. It's got the fuel canister on the bottom. You connect the burner to the fuel canister, and then you just snap this 1 liter cup on top, and it boils water. I actually don't understand how it does this, but insanely fast. In 30 seconds. It's crazy. It'll boil 6 ounces of water. And that's all you need, right? Because you're not really cooking real food. You're not barbecuing hot dogs. You're not cooking burgers because you don't want to pack all that stuff in there with you. You're probably making freeze-dried meals of some kind and coffee. And to do that, all you need is boiled water. So that stove works really, really well for me. It's easy to use. It's idiot-proof. It's super fast, which is great. Sometimes you've got a short window. I was out backpacking just a few weeks ago and got caught in this series of sort of regenerating thunderstorms in this canyon. And I only got 10 minutes to get out of the tent and eat because I was starving. having a stove that was fast enough to get that done so I could eat and then hustle back in before it started raining and hailing again was awesome. So that's what I carry. Make sure you have enough fuel for your stove. Don't be the guy who thinks you're going to be okay and get out there and you don't have any fuel, because if you don't have any fuel, you don't have any stove. And if you don't have a stove, you're not going to get to eat. And that's not good. You don't want that. Whatever stove you carry, make sure you know how to use it. Again, test it before you go. Don't buy a stove and take it into the backcountry if you don't know how to operate it. Please test it and take a look at it and make sure you know how to use it before you go. And then you can go out and do it. Now, as far as cookware and utensils, all I carry is a mug that I use for my coffee and a single metal fork that folds down and goes inside the mug and then inside the camp stove cup or carafe, whatever you want to call it. That's all you need. You don't need plates. You don't really need bowls. You can eat stuff straight out of those freeze-dried bags. You really don't want, well, maybe you do want to, but I don't want to. I don't want to be doing dishes out there, and so I'd prefer not to be carrying bowls and plates and all manner of other stuff. I just carry the stove, one mug, one fork, and that's it. That's all I have to eat with out there. And it works just fine. I've never run into an issue. So you want to bring a tablecloth and a candle and a bottle of wine, you can definitely do that, but you don't need it. It's extra weight. It's really not super duper important, in my view, to have that with you. And now there's a whole bunch of other stuff, and most of this stuff really mirrors what I have in my day pack, right? So you can go back and listen to the episode about packing for self-reliance. It'll cover a lot of this stuff. But all of the standard safety and survival gear that I carry in that backpack, I also carry in my backpacking bag. So trail tape, always have it. Paracord, I always have at least 100 feet of paracord, because you never know when you might need it. You can use it to make an emergency shelter. You can use it to make a splint. You can use it to tie off something or make a gear repair, whatever. Duct tape, usually wrapped around a lighter, because duct tape fixes almost everything. You got to carry a lighter anyway, because it's always good to have at least 2 ways to start fire. A lighter is a great way to be pretty sure you can start a fire. And if you wrap your duct tape around the lighter, then guess what? 2 items for the price of 1. And also duct tape can serve as pretty decent tinder if you really want to use it for getting a fire started. I will sometimes carry actual little tinder cubes or fire starters with me, just to make sure I can start a fire even in really wet environments. I do this a lot. I'm pretty good at starting fires, but there are some scenarios where things are just really rough. Wind, rain, wet stuff, and you're going to be glad if you kind of have a cheat tool with you for that. The lighter is obviously one way to get the fire started. I also carry a ferro rod, going back to having at least 2 ways of starting a fire at all times. Ferro rods, for anyone who doesn't know, are just metal rods that you scrape sort of a metal pick across. They create sparks, and then they start fire. Now, once again, you should practice with your ferro rod before you go out there. They're not as easy to use as you think they are. They don't start fires every single time. There's kind of a trick to it, which is making a little nest in your tinder for the sparks to land in and to get it started. Please make sure you practice with it. But as always, I bring that with me. I bring an emergency blanket with me at all times. I bring, obviously, a headlamp, which I mentioned earlier, at all times. I always carry a compass with me, no matter what, and a map if I have one, because you never know when your navigation systems on the electronic side might fail. I carry extra batteries, as I mentioned, so if I need AA's or AAA's, I carry those with me. I carry all the cords that I need for those big battery packs I mentioned earlier, so I can make sure I charge everything, because obviously, you don't have your cords, you're not going to be charging anything at all. So I bring all that stuff with me. I bring some tape, athletic tape, in case I break a toe or break a finger. Yes, this has happened before, and I need to tape it up or fix it or deal with it somehow. I carry a full-blown medical kit, not a shitty first aid kit like the one that you get from Walmart. That's not going to cut it in a real emergency. I carry an actual trauma kit. Yes, it has Band-Aids and antibiotic ointment and a bunch of normal stuff in it, but it also has a bunch of other stuff in it that you might need in a really bad situation. So a tourniquet or blood clotting material or chest seals or whatever. And this is one of those cases where taking a wilderness medicine class would really be good for you, because you want to know how to use that stuff, right? You don't just want to be the guy who knows how to use a Band-Aid and then has all this fancy stuff and doesn't know how to use it. You want to actually know how to use it, and then you want to carry it. And then you have sort of the standard rest of the stuff. So a rain jacket. You always need to have a rain jacket with you. You always need to have a fleece or a hoodie of some kind with you. You always want to be able to deal with wind and wet, and you also want to be able to deal with cold. So make sure that you bring enough layers and enough jackets to ensure that you can be actually warm out there. If you are planning to be out for a while and you want to have a fire for whatever reason, if you're allowed to, and there's not a ban like there is in most of the West right now because it's so dry, carry a hatchet with you. And the hatchet's nice because not only can it chop wood, but it also can just be a really helpful tool, right? Opening stuff that's hard to open. Using the back of the hatchet as a hammer for putting tent stakes into the ground. Or a whole bunch of other things. I've had to use it to open my bear canister before because I dropped the tool that I used to open it. So that's a really helpful item to have with you as well. I'm not being as comprehensive with these pieces because, again, they are covered in the Day Pack series that you guys really should go back and listen to and check out. So make sure you bring all of that along with you. Don't think that just because you're doing an overnighter, you don't need all the safety stuff that you have during your day trip. I do carry a day pack with me, and I should mention that to you. You don't want to be carrying your backpacking bag around all day. Obviously, it wouldn't be very comfortable or convenient. So I do carry a actual foldable, packable day pack. The one that I bring is called a Matador Beast. I think it's a 28-liter pack, if I remember correctly. It rolls up real tiny. It has a little bit of a frame. It's got hip straps. You really want to make sure these things have hip straps because you are going to transfer all of your day gear over into your day pack when you go fishing. And you want it to be able to distribute that weight into your hips instead of into your back. And it packs down to almost nothing. I mean, it weighs a couple pounds, but I mean, it's a backpack. And so that's pretty cool. It has a little mesh bag that it fits down into. You pack it down into your pack. And when you get to camp, you just load it up with all of your safety and fishing gear for the day. The rest of it can stay at camp. You don't have to carry your big old backpacking pack in the river and risk getting that wet or being uncomfortable. The Matador is really pretty awesome. So whatever you choose for that solution, do make sure that you have a day pack with you. And then you've got your fishing stuff, right? So this is standard stuff that we've talked about for a long time now. I always carry 2 rods. They're both in the same sock. They're both in the same nylon or canvas tube. I do that on purpose because I don't want to carry a big metal tube sticking off my back that could be a lightning attractor for me in places where there are thunderstorms, which is almost everywhere, most afternoons. I carry 2 reels just in case because you never know when you could break one. Yes, I have broken reels out there, or I have gotten tangled so bad or had to cut fly line that I'm happy to have another reel with me. And then I've got my standard fishing stuff, my chest pack. I've got my fly boxes, obviously all of my tackle, my tippet, everything that goes along with it, and my net, all of which is strapped to my backpacking bag, sort of down in one of the water bottle holders on one side. And then obviously it goes to camp with me, and then it goes out with me when I go fishing. And so you're going to have fishing stuff. And unfortunately, that stuff can be pretty heavy, right? This stuff probably weighs between 5 and 8 pounds, I would say. So you're already kind of at a disadvantage compared to your standard ultralight backpacker. But turns out you can't fish without fishing gear, so you're just going to have to make peace with it and do some extra squats at the gym because you're going to have to carry that stuff. And then the final things that I'll mention are just safety items, right? So I do always have a knife with me. That's part of my chest pack. When I'm out fishing, it's with me when I backpack. You really should never, ever be outside without a knife with you and in an accessible location. You're asking for trouble. That's a baseline tool you should always have. And then, of course, I do carry a firearm when I'm out there. Now, this can be controversial. We'll probably do an episode at some point about carrying in the backcountry. I carry a .44 Magnum revolver loaded with bear rounds, partially for bear, partially for moose, partially because if I were to ever get myself into a wildlife situation where that became an issue, I would want to know that I could deal with it pretty quickly and pretty effectively. So I do carry that with me. I will sometimes carry bear spray, but please be careful with the bear spray. It's very easy to mess up and spray yourself, and it will ruin your trip if you do that wrong, like inside a tent or down the back of your waders. Yes, I've been there, and it sucks. Please be careful with that stuff if you do carry it, but you do want to have something with you that is a deterrent for wildlife that gets a little too cuddly. with you out there. And I have my footwear, right? Which we should also mention before we close out. I usually hike in hiking boots because obviously we're backpacking, but I am carrying my wet wading gear with me, or waders in some instances, but I'd say 9 times out of 10 it's wet wading gear. That's my wading boots, it's my wet wading neoprene socks, it's a pair of wool socks for those, and that's it. That's what I'm carrying in there with me. If I'm carrying waders, they're probably wading pants or hip waders. I don't like carrying full chest waders unless I really have to in a backpacking scenario, but every now and then with the high alpine lake that's exceptionally cold or really bad weather, I might bring them. I have all of that stuff with me as well for fishing. And really that's kind of about it, guys. I mean, I'm sure that there's more to talk about with this. People were going to come in and say, well, you could drop this and add this, and I use this instead. And what about that? And I'd love to hear from you. So feel free to drop me a note on Instagram or send me an email at backcountryflyfishingpodcast@gmail.com. Whatever you want to do, I'm happy to listen to your system. I can always probably improve mine, but this is pretty darn close to where I am. So make sure that you're running through that list of safety items from that episode on packing for self-reliance. This should be enough to get you started on a basic backpacking list. And then it's just a matter of getting that thing packed up, loaded up. And yes, there is a correct way to load a backpacking bag. Maybe we'll talk about that sometime, but for now, just look it up. Make sure you do it right. Hit the gym so you can handle that pack, which is, once you throw your water in there, and I guess I should mention, I'm always carrying a CamelBak with about 3 liters of water in it, sometimes 2 liters, depending on where I happen to be, and then obviously water filters. And you always want at least 2 water filter bags and at least 2 actual water filters with you, because they can fail, they eventually will fail, and if you don't have a means to filter water and you can't drink water safely, that's a very, very dangerous situation off in the wilderness. So I should mention that you have all that stuff with you. But once you add all of that together, you're probably looking at something in the neighborhood of between 40 and 50 pounds, right? Now, it might even be more than that, depending on how long you're going and how many people are going with you. Is that ultralight? No, it's not. Can you manage it? Yeah, you definitely can, especially if you do it on a regular basis, especially if you train for it. And it really is just kind of part of it, right? You're going fishing, you got extra weight on you, you need to be prepared, you need to be safe, and this is just how you do it. And really, that's about it, guys. I think that'll wrap us up on here. I will do my best to put together a list of this stuff and share it at some point, either in the show notes or somewhere else, so that you guys have a downloadable list where you can use it. But in the meantime, when you pair this episode with the others, this should give you a pretty good sense of what you need. And hopefully it's enough to sort of take some of the question marks out of backpacking so that you can get out and either enjoy it more if you're already doing it, or potentially get started in it for the first time if you haven't been backpacking for backcountry fly fishing. So thanks for joining us, guys. I am looking forward to getting out backpacking. I hope this week. I hope a lot of you are out there fishing. Hope you're having an awesome early summer. Stay safe. Keep ripping lips. I'll see you back here next week. Till next time, this is Ross. Maybe I'll see you out there. I'm just remembering that I forgot to mention toilet paper and a poop scoop. Bring those too.